On episode 301 of the podcast, we talk about how Jude went from charging $400 to $17,000 for his video workshop. And this is before a client pays 1 cent toward production itself or even books video production itself. We also talk about why every business owner should have a confidence folder and also how borrowing someone else's belief can change your life. What's up, friend? I'm Ryan Coral from Studio Sherpas, and this is the Grow Your Video Business podcast, the show for corporate and commercial filmmakers where we talk about the business of production. We talk about sales and marketing, mindset, process, all of the things that you need to grow and scale a video business, the same things that have helped me build my own 7-figure video production business over the course of the last 17 years. I'm going to say 18 years starting next month. If that sounds like you, hopefully this is the place you want to be. You are in the right place, my friend. I'm so glad that you are here. Jude Charles, my guest for this episode, for over 15 years, he has been producing documentaries for entrepreneurs. He has produced stories for Google, Steve Harvey, and dozens of visionary CEOs. He is the author of Dramatic Demonstration. This book is a roadmap that teaches you how to dig deep to find compelling stories that no one else knows and then leverage those stories to grow your business. This conversation with Jude is massive. You've heard me talk in the past about the video blueprint method. This is a course that we offer. It's one of my best-selling courses. This is Jude's approach to the same type of workshop. This is what we charge our clients $2,500 for. So when somebody calls us and says, hey, we're looking for a video, I kind of walk through our process, and part of that process is for clients to do a $2,500 workshop with us where we're going to work with them for 2 hours and really just dial in with their stakeholders the vibe of the video. Like what does this thing need to be? What are the goals of the piece? And we come up with keywords that are going to be used throughout the piece. We charge $2,500 for this workshop, and we've been doing it for 6 years, and it's been like one of the best things that we've ever done in our business. It's helped us differentiate us from our competition, and it's also given us more clarity on what our clients want, and it's given us and our team the ability to create something so that when the client hires us to do the production itself, there are little to no surprises with version number 1. Draft 1, they're like, yeah, this was all in the blueprint. There's no surprises. So it has changed our business. So to hear how Jude is charging $17,000 for something pretty similar is pretty incredible. So if you're interested to learn more about how we're hosting these workshops for our clients and charging $2,500 a piece, you can get more info by going to studiosherpas.com/blueprints, where you'll also get access to a real blueprint that we have delivered to a client. So go grab that. And now I'm very excited for you as we get into this amazing interview with Mr. Jude Charles. Jude, welcome to the show, man.
Ryan, it is a pleasure. Thank you for having me. I'm glad that a good friend of ours, Wes Wages, connected us and able to make this conversation happen.
Wes has been on the show, and if anybody has been to the Onward Summit before, they have met Wes in person. Definitely one of the coolest guys that I know. How do you and Wes know each other?
I was introduced to Wes by another friend, believe it or not. So it's just a bunch of connections.
Another video person, or?
No, this was a marketing person. I think she's actually a copywriter.
Okay.
So she and Wes are friends, and she was like, I know a really great person that's in video production that you should meet.
Yeah.
And so I was like, Wes Wages, I know who that guy is. So yeah, I'd love to meet him. So and we've just kept in contact ever since. Like, Wes is a really, really cool dude. Love having conversations with him and in the work that he's doing over the years. I think we've kind of been in the same business. Well, not the same exact business, but in video production for the same amount of time. I've been in it 16 years. I think he's about 13 years. But it's amazing to know Wes and to continue that friendship.
Yeah. And obviously, he's super talented, doing great stuff. I'm grateful, so grateful for the introduction. The chat that we had a couple of weeks ago was just super cool. You're kind of blowing my mind with some of the things that you're doing. So I'm really excited for us to be able to hear some of the success that you've had and where you're going in your business. Seriously mind-blowing kind of stuff. But let's just rewind a little bit and would you just share the story how you got into doing video production and kind of where the business is at today?
Sure. I am, at the time, 17 years old in a TV production classroom when my teacher, Mrs. Donnelly, took a liking to me. And I don't know why, but she taught me everything she knew about video production. And then at the end of the school year, just about May 4th, 2006, I'll never forget the date, she said to me, "Jude, you're really talented at video production. You should start a business." Now, I'm the youngest of 10 children. My father...
Whoa, dude. That's amazing in and of itself.
Yeah, my father worked at a construction company. My mom worked at a chair factory. There weren't any entrepreneurs in my family, but the following day, Mrs. Donnelly didn't take no for an answer. I didn't tell her no, but she wasn't willing to take no for an answer. She came to class May 5th, 2006 with a yellow envelope and handed it to me. And I was like, "What is this?" She said, "Look inside." And when I looked inside of this yellow envelope, it was my very first set of business cards. That is how I got started. I actually still have the very first one because I signed it and dated it, which is why I can remember the date.
Oh my goodness.
It is how 16 years later, I'm still in the same video production business. It has gone through different names, but same business. I don't know how I came up with Video Precision by Charles the first time. That was the first name, which was way too complicated. But today it is just Jude Charles and Company. And it is 16 years later. I've focused on a very specific niche, which is documentaries for entrepreneurs. And I've been blessed to be able to do work that I love. But there is a transition that's getting ready to happen very soon.
Oh, baby.
Well,
cool. Let's get. I definitely want to hear about that. Let's talk about Mrs. Donnelly for a second here. Do you keep in touch with Mrs. Donnelly?
I do. She still is teaching. Not at the same high school
Amazing.
I was at, but she's still teaching. An amazing woman. And I always tell that story. I always bring her up because I tell her this all the time. She won't take credit, but I told her, "Look, if you didn't give me those business cards, I wouldn't have got started. I wouldn't be where I am today, traveling the world doing filmmaking, if it had not been for her." And so, we still keep in contact. Her birthday, I think it was her 61st or 62nd birthday, was not too long ago. And so we still talk and keep in touch.
That's amazing. How does that make you feel that somebody noticed you, took a liking to you for whatever reason? Kind of like you said, you're just like, I don't know. I mean, I didn't feel like I was like that much different than anybody else. But what does that make you feel? How does that make you feel knowing that, Mrs. Donnelly, if she had like some weird prompting or just something that just said like this, there is something in this boy that he needs to nurture and pursue. It seems like that moment in her life to where she, imparted this into your life, changed the trajectory of your life. Absolutely.
The belief she had in me allowed me to believe in myself. Like I told you, I was the youngest of 10, so I didn't have a mentor or an example of what it meant to be an entrepreneur. Yeah. And so, but for her to believe, it was just like, oh, I have to do this because she believes in me. So I got to at least try. And so for me, it was borrowing her belief because I didn't believe that I could be an entrepreneur or that I could make money from video production. She was the very first person that put that in my mind. Again, I'm 17. Yeah. I'm 17 years old. I haven't gone to college yet. I'm in high school. And she's saying to me, you don't have to wait till you go to college. You can make money now. And I naively believed that. All I needed was a business card and a borrowed video camera. That's it. And I went out and asked people, and I was doing very small things at the time. I was doing like $500 weddings, right? But it was Mrs. Donnelly's belief in me and her courage to believe in me. When I think back on Mrs. Donnelly giving me those business cards, one thing I remember about my high school days is Mrs. Donnelly would have to travel at least 45 minutes to an hour, depending on traffic, to get to school, and then to go back home. She had 2 young daughters herself. So that means at some point in between that, she found the time to make sure I had business cards, right? Like if you sit with that and you think about that, I can't not go through with this idea. So that's
pretty powerful.
Yeah.
Man, I love that. That's such a cool. That's a cool story, and what a cool lady that would follow through on something that just, it's kind of weird. It's kind of like out there, like, like really, like, is he going to follow through with it? Is he going to do it? Like, she would hope so, and she would want, whatever. But the fact that she just felt like that was something that she needed to do, and teachers are the best, man.
Absolutely.
They're just
teachers are not paid enough, and I don't think we value teachers enough. We as a society value teachers enough for the real influence they have on students.
Yeah.
Right. Or just on human beings, really. It's not even just students. Yeah. It's really just on human beings, whether it is the student or the parents. Sometimes for parent-teacher conferences, like if the parent is feeling like they just don't know what to do next, like that teacher steps in, right? Yeah. Because they spend so much time with the student at school, whether it's, I think it's like 6 to 8 hours. But yeah, man, I absolutely love Mrs. Donnelly and everything that I talk about anytime
I love her too, man.
Yeah, anytime I'm speaking on a podcast, speaking on stage, whatever it is, I mention her because, again, I know I wouldn't be here without her.
I love that. Well, what's your current business strategy? You're doing documentaries for entrepreneurs, which I just think is so cool. I mean, that's sort of the thing that got me so excited about working with businesses, was being able to sit across from a founder and for he or she to tell me like why they started this business, what their passion is, what they care about, how they want to change the world, even just, make a little dent in their own corner of the world is so fun and exciting. So I love that for you. I love that for me as well. But what's your current business strategy? Because I think you've got like a unique approach to this, and how are you getting clients, and what does all of that look like?
Yeah, so before any client, let's say I get a new lead, someone that may want to work with me, they've either seen my work or have heard me on a podcast or something of that nature. Before they ever work with me, they have to go through this full day. It used to be 8 hours. It's now about 4 to 6 hour session. And what I call that is a road mapping strategy session. What that means is before we ever get to the actual project, before I ever start to press record on the camera, we map it all out. So we get very clear on who they are, what they're about. I call that dramatic clarity. Then in the middle part, once we get clear on, like, let's say, for example, their core values, then I'll say, okay, how do we bring this core value to life? Because it's just a word at that point. It doesn't mean anything without bringing it to life. So I call that dramatic demonstration. And then dramatic leverage is, how do you market this? How do you go from just talking about it, showing it, but now marketing it to the right people at the right time? That is the whole road mapping process that in the beginning, when I first started this in 2000, because I didn't start road mapping when I started the business, but I realized that it was powerful. I was doing like what we were used to in video production, treatments, right? I was doing like story treatments.
Yeah, right.
And then I saw a web design company doing road mapping, and they were charging $10,000 for it. And I was just like, they're doing road mapping. They're not building the website, but they're building the plan for the website. And I was like, what if I did that in video production? But I didn't charge $10,000. I wasn't that brave in the beginning. The very first one I charged was $400. And then I think I had charged $500 right after that. But it was the second client that paid $500 that was really eye-opening for me. In the beginning, when I started road mapping, it was so that people will move forward with the project. That was my whole goal. I was charging back then maybe $20,000 to $30,000 per project. And I knew that that was a big jump for people to go from, hey, I don't really know what you're about or who you are, to $30,000. Right? But then, so I was like, I'm going to try to make sure this person moves forward. So if they give me $500, I'm cool with that. I don't need to make a boatload of money from road mapping. But the second guy I ever worked with, he didn't move forward. And I went back to him and I was like, hey, I felt like you had a great time in road mapping, but you didn't move forward. Why not? Again, because I'm thinking, what can I do better? I'm thinking something fell apart in this process. And he said to me, I'm the kind of guy, and I'll never forget this because I'd never heard anyone say this. He said, I'm the kind of guy that if you put a Mercedes in front of me or you put an Audi in front of me, I'm going to go with the Audi. And what he meant is he's just cheap. He's not going to pay the high price, even though he knows it's the right person to go with. So he took the plan that I gave him, because included in road mapping, I also do a storyboard and other things. And he took that plan and he took it to someone else. But here's what he said at the end of saying that if you put a Mercedes or Audi in front of him, you know, he's going to go with the Audi. He said, but to tell you the truth, I'd pay for road mapping all over again. He saw value in road mapping, the plan, more than he saw value in video production. And from that point is where I not only continued to raise the rate to where it is today, which is $17,000 per session, but it's like I saw road mapping as its own lane, its own product, even if they don't move forward with the project. Of course, I want them to, because I charge 6 figures now for production. But that's how I got started with road mapping. And that's kind of the business model. I only work with 5 clients a year, and 5 production clients specifically. Now, I do consulting and other things, but production, like if I'm doing a documentary for an entrepreneur, it's only 5 a year. That's my max. And they have to go through that road mapping process first. No one gets to work with me without it. And so that's the business model I've built. I started doing that in 2010 is when I didn't charge for road mapping the very, very first time. I wasn't even calling it road mapping. I knew I was like giving them a treatment and all that. But now today it's 17,000, and then I plan on continuing to raise that. So,
and then can you give us the, like, when did you charge more than, 500? What was the...
Yeah, so that's a good...
To be able to charge 17,000, how long did that take?
That's a great question. So I started officially charging, I think, in 2014, 15. After the second client, I remember him specifically, so that was 500. And then from 500, as soon as he told me that, I got a testimonial from him, and I charged 1,000. I went from goal, I doubled. The goal was always, if I had a successful road mapping project or process, road mapping strategy session, then I would increase the rate. If they weren't happy, I wouldn't increase the rate. So that's how I kind of did it. But I doubled on the third one. And then I sat there for a while because I wasn't comfortable going higher than that for a while. So maybe about a year, I wasn't comfortable.
Okay.
I went to 3,000 once I got comfortable. I had enough testimonials, enough case studies. I went to 3,000. From 3,000, I jumped to 5,000. But that 5,000 client, so again, that took about a year and a half. That 5,000 client, she is one of the best case studies I have now, where she said she was able to make $100,000 before we ended up doing, we're now on our second documentary project. But she said before we even got to the first one, she had made $100,000 back. And I was like, wait, you have to tell me the story behind this. You have to give me a testimonial and walk me through this. So that ended up becoming a case study. But essentially what happened is she had over 283 testimonials on her website. And during our road mapping session, I said, it's great that you have testimonials, but they don't go deep enough. I was like, what if... Now, in my mind, I'm pitching for her to work together, for us to work together. So I said to her, we needed to do video success stories of going to these clients' homes and truly, she's a business coach. So it was like, how are you helping to change their family life, not just their business? Well, she took that idea and ran with it, and she decided to do 10 Zoom video calls with these clients. She picked 10 of them, and she then packaged that into an email marketing campaign that she had sent out to get new clients. And I forget exactly how many clients she ended up getting. It's in the case study. I think it might have been 17. I forget. But because of that, she made $100,000. So, dude. Yeah. But I gave her, I gave her the plan. I gave her how to do it. And so she ran with it. Right. And if you know anything about personality tests, she's a quick start. So she, because of that, she had the plan. I was like, maybe I can't do the video project with Jude yet, the documentary, but I can do this. Let me jump on this. So it ended up, because of that, we're now, like I said, our second docuseries. It's been 3.5 years we've been working together.
So you went 5,000, you're working with her, incredible testimony, and then where did you go? What was the transition?
From there, I went to 10,000, and then today where it is 17,000. So in a span of 8 years, let's say, 8 years, I went from 500 to 17,000. And then next year, I plan to go to 30,000. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, it just doubled, dude. Yeah. I mean, what's wrong with, what about a 6-figure road mapping session? What's wrong with you?
Well,
are you scared?
I will
Just
say I am
kidding.
scared, but it's not out of the realm of possibility.
Oh man.
I don't know what that'll look like
Well,
yet.
let me just say, like, number one, congratulations. That I know for all of us listening and just sitting here, like, thinking, like, what am I doing wrong? To think that and I love your progression, because you not out of the gate are you charging $17K. I mean, that takes some guts, right?
Yeah.
And that's sort of freeing
Yep.
for me, as it's like, okay, like, you figure it out as you go, you stumble, you do some right, you do some where it's like, I could have done that better, for you to not raise your rate when people aren't giving you, like, going ahead with the production or whatever. That's an interesting, way to think through when you're going to raise your rates. But also then the other part of this whole thing is, like, these are 6-figure clients, right?
Yep.
You're taking on 5 projects a year. That's like less than like one every other month. Like, like that's incredible. So there's just lots of parts of your story where I'm just like, when you shared this stuff with me the first time, my like jaw hit the floor, because for me, my business changed drastically in 2016 when we started doing this exact same model.
Yeah.
Right? We didn't call it road mapping. It was our video blueprint workshop. And out of the gate, I had the audacity to say, hey, it's $2,500 for this 2-hour session. And then we're going to deliver, after we do this workshop with you and your team and all the stakeholders, we're going to deliver a blueprint that, it's going to have some mood board type stuff and kind of regurgitate some of the things that we talked about. And then in that, we're going to have like 2 or 3 proposals based on your budget range and the things that we talked about. So we're not like, we're getting paid for pre-production.
Yeah.
We're getting paid to deliver a proposal. And then, in the same as you, like, they can take this whole blueprint that has all of the elements of their video, where when we shoot the video, if we base it off the blueprint, there's no surprises on the first draft.
Yeah.
Right? Because they've already seen, like, they know the feel, the look, like, they get the sense of it. Where in the past, before doing this blueprint, it was always just a crapshoot. And I remember there was this one project in particular that I had delivered. I waited to the very last minute to get this video to a client who needed it for a fundraising event. This is like one of my most embarrassing stories. I got it to her, and she was the leader of this school, and I got it, and we thought it was pretty good, but I was stressing out, like, trying to get this thing done. Got it to her. There was no time for revisions, and she got it, and she's like, "What is this?" And I was like, So then I kind of had to, like, sell my soul for the next, however many months to try to rectify that relationship. And it was a train wreck. And it ended fine. But I was like, I handled that terribly, and she didn't give me hardly any grace. So that was just a messy situation. But this blueprint strategy, or in your case, the road mapping strategy, to be able to build all of that stuff. And if the only thing, I mean, $2,500 is, pales in comparison to $17,000. But the amount of energy and effort that goes into that $2,500 is, like, it's very little. Like, it's a 2-hour workshop, and then there's a few hours, 4 to 6 hours that somebody on our team or a contractor helps us craft this PDF. That's it. Like, it's 8 hours max, and probably less. If the only thing that we ever got hired for was to create this blueprint, that would be an incredibly profitable business for us. Yeah. So client can take that blueprint, can hire a contractor, freelancer or whatever, and produce a video. We've never had anybody take the blueprint, like your Audi, Mercedes guy yet. But if they did, that would be fine, because, we got paid and there was value in it. And we also tell people on the front end, like, after the workshop, hey, if this wasn't valuable to you, we'll give you your money back for the workshop.
Yep.
So now we have a differentiator. We have a money back guarantee, where you can't do that with production. You can't, like, shoot, edit, deliver, and client, if you don't like it, we'll give you your money back. You can't do that. That's a terrible business model.
Yeah.
Right.
No,
but I can give 2 hours of my time,
Yeah. And I think it's what I love about that is you incentivize them to see that it's a win-win. right? And so I do it a little differently, the way I incentivize it. If they decide to move forward with the project, that $17,000 gets put back into the project.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Versus I don't do the money back guarantee only because for me, it was always like I would put all this time into the treatment. Back then, that's what it was. It was a treatment, and then they wouldn't move forward.
Yeah.
Whereas now my position is, hey, this is so valuable that you are going, like, the 17,000, or back then what it was, 1,000 or 3,000, pales in comparison to what you probably should have paid for this. And so I try to position it as it's going to be incredible value. So there is no need for a money back guarantee. But if you're confident you want to work with me, this is the first step. Let's just look at this as a deposit, right? And so I haven't had. So my success rate with that, I believe, is 70% or 72%, something like that. Where I've had quite a few people. They just want the plan.
Yeah.
Because the other thing is, so I'm working with entrepreneurs. I'm working with the CEO, the leader. Sometimes they'll realize they may not be as ready as they thought they were for the project.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, but again, that helps them, and they were willing to pay that versus paying the six-figure investment, right? Instead of paying the six-figure investment to do the whole project and realize, oh crap, we got to scrub this. This means nothing to us. This is not what we're looking for.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just different strategies.
It's a great loss leader, right? Mm-hmm. You know, like get them in the door, let them experience your personality, let them experience like your skill set in like, is this valuable? Is this the right time? You know, like the same thing for us. It's like $2,500 investment. Most of the brand stories that we're doing this for range from $15,000 to $25,000 or $30,000, and we've done projects like this that, you know, are double, triple that amount. But $2,500 for, you know, it's like a tenth of almost the lowest cost video that we're going to do. Yeah. It's like it's a no-brainer for those clients to just be like, yeah, I'll take this risk, and if the workshop's a joke, we'll give you your money back, or we'll get our money back. But it probably won't be, because they seem legit, and every time it is a win-win-win, like per Michael Scott. But like seriously, our client wins because they get on the same page with their team. Our team wins, the shooters and the editors and the contractors, because here's this plan. This is what we're going off of. We have a roadmap or a blueprint, whatever. And then when, you know, client is seeing draft number 1 and finals, they're sharing it with the team. They're sharing it with their boss. Nobody is saying like, whoa, what is this? Like, why did you guys decide to do this? Because we had the stakeholders at the beginning. If they weren't there, they at least have signed off on the blueprint, and the blueprint makes it so there's no surprises when they're seeing the edit. So it has made our product better. It has made the client relationship better, and it has made us look like rock stars to be able to offer something like this.
Your clients aren't paying you to do video production. They're paying you to lead them through the process. And what you have done with the blueprint, or what I have done with road mapping, is we're leading them step by step through the process. There are no surprises. They know what's getting ready to happen next. They know what the end product will look like. And because of that, like you mentioned, every step of the way, it's a win, win, win. Here's the other piece to keep in mind. For those who are probably thinking, should I really be charging for a plan of some sort? Mm. It's also important for you to interview the client. They may not be the right fit for your business.
Yeah.
For me, out of that 28% that didn't move forward, some of them just weren't the right fit. And I was happy to say, hey, I'm still going to give you this plan, but I'm not the right person for what you're looking for.
Yeah.
And so I think that's also important. That becomes a win-win-win, because now you didn't just take on the project because you needed the money, which is why you get paid for it up front, the road mapping, in my opinion.
Right.
The client wins because they don't move forward with someone that's going to resent the process with them, right? And then you still ended up winning in the end if you have a way. Like sometimes what I'll do is I refer them to someone else that may be the right fit for what they're looking for. If they're just an all-around bad client, and I won't refer them, I just tell them, look, there's no one that can help you. I don't think you should do this. But of course, I say it in a nicer way than that. But again, it's just all about not just yourself winning because you're getting paid up front. It's about everyone winning, and then it's a better process. It's a better way to impact lives, even if you aren't still doing the video production.
I love that. And let me correct you. That technically your version is a win-win-win-win. So we've added
the
like
fourth
a,
win?
Fourth win. That was where you might not work together.
Oh, well,
right?
yeah,
Even discovering that, like that's genius. And that's very similar in our world. Like if we got through that blueprint session, they're still going to get the blueprint, but we might just make the proposal so high, or do similar to you, say like, hey, you should go call this Jude Charles guy. He can totally help you.
Yeah.
So here's what's cool. We offer one of my best-selling courses is the Video Blueprint Method, and it is essentially like what I've done, 6 years ago, offering this $2,500 workshop. You're making me think, like, man, should I raise my rates for this
Absolutely.
workshop? Regardless,
Absolutely.
Yeah. You're like, well, start with doubling it, and then maybe get up to just 10x it. Okay, all right, that's a topic for a different time. But I essentially packaged the way that I sell that, what the blueprint looks like, all of these things. You can, if you don't have the Video Blueprint Method, you can download a sample of what we deliver to our clients, and really just I kind of unpack it more. If you go to studiosherpas.com/blueprint, so grab that free download so you can see what we're delivering. And what I'm really excited about, if you do own the Video Blueprint Method, Jude is going to come and share for that group and really kind of give us a deep dive into what his proposals look like and his road mapping, and just give us a sense for really the down and dirty behind the scenes of what he's doing there. So I'm super excited. So if you're not in that, if you haven't gotten the Video Blueprint Method, now is a really good time to consider that. And for those of you that already have it, get excited, because we're gonna do some live streaming with Jude soon.
You want to get it now, especially before I convince Ryan to raise the price. So please.
Yeah. There we go. That's good. That's well played. So the other thing that I thought was so interesting about our conversation the other day is when you had said, you were talking about the future, and then even today you said, well, like some things are changing. So what does the future of your work or of your business look like?
In October of 2020, I woke up one morning and I was paralyzed from the neck down. My eyes opened. I could move my head. I could move my eyes, but I could not physically move. When I was able to regain my body movement, 2 hours later, I called my therapist because I knew what was going on. It was mental and not physical. I was later diagnosed with burnout, depression, and anxiety. I tell that story because the context is important to what I'm getting ready to say next. The original plan that we talked about that I had come up with in December of 2021 was that I would retire from the business in 5 years, retire from video production altogether, walk away from it in 5 years, because at that point, I will have been doing video production for 20 years, and I've built a successful business. I've had a good run. I've enjoyed it, but I knew it was never my end game. Like I had a talent, and I was really good at it, but it wasn't my end game. Well, I mentioned that the plan has changed a little bit because as we're recording this, 2 weeks ago, I announced that this is actually my last year.
Oh, my.
Yeah. I decided that, so it's my last year. I'm semi-retiring. It's my last year, but the video production business will remain. I just won't be in it day to day. I decided to do that because I realized my mission is to lead and empower entrepreneurs to have relentless courage. So I had to sit and ask myself, was I having relentless courage by trying to wait 5 years? Why not do it now? And I did realize fear was part of what was holding me back, because what I plan to do next, I've never done before. And so I am retiring at the end of this year. Probably by the time, if you listen to this a year after it's been published, I will have already been retired, no longer doing video production. I think I still may be involved in really big projects, but for the most part, 90% of my time is not going to be spent in video production at all. It is going to be spent on initially the product side of the business. So I wrote a book in 2020 as well that launched this year, February 2022. But I have other products that I want to put out that are more geared towards my mission and vision, which is to lead and empower entrepreneurs to have relentless courage. I've already started writing the second book, and then I have a journal coming out. There's all these things that I want to do The big idea, though, that I may not have mentioned to you is that I want to start a private equity firm, which I've never done before, never been in that space. But I have seen the behind the scenes of really big businesses. I only work with entrepreneurs who are running 7- and 8-figure businesses. So I've seen the behind the scenes. I want to play a bigger game. I want a bigger seat at the table, be able to buy and sell businesses. But more specifically, this is the sweet spot to it, is that I want to do leadership retreats around. So the businesses that I buy, I want to lead the executive teams so that the company can grow. I truly believe that the way that companies grow is through the people. It's through great leadership. And so leading the CEOs, the executives, the CMOs, and the C-suite, that's what I'm getting ready to go into next. I may not start that right away. I'm going to build up more money through the product side of the business that I have right now and then go into private equity. So that's kind of the big overarching plan that I'm getting ready to go into next.
Of course. I mean,
yeah.
Go big or go home.
Yeah. So it's been a great journey. Here's the thing, though. You have to know what is right for you. Video production, I do not resent it. It has been an amazing journey. But again, I always knew it's only, and my mentor told me this, which is also what led me to this. He said it's only 1/10 of your potential. But that's for me, and that's why I'm specifically saying you got to do what's right for you. I do not believe in just giving blanket advice and saying, oh, of course you should leave video production or retire from it or whatever it is. I think you got to do what's right for you. For me, that season of burnout helped me realize that this was no longer right for me.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I still love it to some degree.
Yeah.
But I also know like there's something bigger for me. And I want to step into that. And I don't have kids yet, but I want to be able to tell my kids I left it all on the table. That the day I die, I left it all on the table. And not in a way that I overwork myself, because I believe right now, we didn't talk about this. This is a whole podcast that could be about burnout. I only work 3 days a week right now. So I only work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday because of burnout. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I take Monday and Friday off. And then the weekends I had already been taking off. But I want to continue that because when I do start a family, I want to be there for my kids. I grew up, youngest of 10, but my dad worked 2 jobs. He was always working. He wasn't there as an emotional father. He was there to provide. He was present, but he wasn't an emotional father. And so all of these ideas, and I want to give all that context because, again, you got to do what's right for you. But the important thing is to have courage to do what you really want to do. Play the game that you really want to play. And you get to choose that. You get to choose what game that is.
Dude. Just like going to school here today. Well, like practically, we're listening to you and it's like, okay, who is this Jude Charles? Like everybody's Googling you right now. What does it mean for the person who is early in their business and is, hearing some of these things like, oh my gosh, charging $2,500 for a workshop, charging $500. Like when you started charging for a workshop, like there's no video, who's going to pay $500 and they're not even going to get a video at the end of the day. So there's that person who is kind of struggling with some of the things that, we're saying, or is just like, I've never even heard this before. What does it mean for that person to be courageous in their business?
I think courage starts with the first step. I didn't believe that someone would pay me $500 when I decided to charge $500, but I took the step anyway. The very first time actually was $400, and it was for a guy who was running a marketing agency for dentists. So his niche was in dentists, and he wanted to do a brand story. And when he reached out, I told him, hey, like the first step is $400, and he gave me pushback. He was like, we were talking on the phone. At first we emailed, but then we got on the phone, and he was like, I don't understand. Why are you charging me $400? And I won't even get a video. So the same thing, the same idea that you just mentioned, he couldn't wrap his head around $400, no video. Right? Yeah. But I was like, I stuck to it. And I was just like, well, this is part of my process. This is what it takes. Yeah. You're going to have a plan. We're both going to be on the same page. And I just explained it to him. So I tried anyway. Now, he could have said no, but instead he said yes, and we moved forward. He didn't move forward with the project. But again, it was taking me through the process and understanding that all I needed was that first yes. Someone paid for it. Now I proved myself wrong. I didn't believe someone would pay for it, but now they did. To me, that is always even when I started charging $17,000, I constantly have to prove it to myself, and I try anyway. To me, that's what courage is. You take the first step. The first step is first deciding you're gonna charge whatever it is, whether it's 500 or 17,000.
Yeah.
The second step is to try it. The worst that could happen is they say no, but that's it. You're not gonna die, right? Like,
Right. Well, let's hope not. Jeez, that would be a pretty intense sales
right?
call.
Right. And I think it's part of the reason why I go back to me retiring. You can operate out of a place of fear or a place of courage. The reason I've gotten to $17,000 for road mapping or 6 figures for a project is just constantly stepping into courage. Even when I don't believe. Now, how do you practically make that happen? I want to make sure people understand how to practically, simplest elementary way to make that happen. I own an iPhone. In my iPhone, in the Photos album, you can create other albums. So I created an album called Confidence Album. Anytime I get a testimonial, anytime I have a successful project that I'm proud of, anytime I get a text message from someone who's telling me something great about myself, I put that in that folder because till this day, 16 years later, I've been doing video production and I still go through imposter syndrome. Who am I to charge X?
Yeah.
Well, who am I? I go back to that confidence folder. On those days where I feel imposter syndrome, I go back to that folder and I look at what value I've created for other people that they have told me, not me being in my own head and having my own ego. I look back at what they've said. What I'm searching for is evidence of fact. Not my own opinion, not my own ego, not my own,
that's good.
Whatever you want to call it. It's fact that someone else feels this way. And when they feel that way, it becomes a fact. And so why am I stopping myself from taking the next step? I could have, today as we record this, with you, Ryan, I forget the number now because I stopped keeping track, but you might be podcast 110, let's just say, that I've been featured on. I've definitely been featured on over 100 podcasts. But when I started this journey, it was easy for me to say, who are you? To get on a podcast and talk about the work that you've done or talk about who you are. Who are you? No one knows you. If you go to my social media pages, no one really, I don't have that. I don't have over 10,000 followers, right? But I know I have something valuable to share based on my confidence folder, and that's why I'm sitting here with you today.
Yeah.
I decided to step outside of the shadows. Even doing that was scary. But I decided to do it, and now there are people that I get to have conversations with that can learn from some of the things that I did, some of the mistakes that I made too, right? Like, again, what I like that you did with your blueprint is I didn't have the money back guarantee because I just didn't feel like I could afford it, to be honest. But what I love that you did is it's still a different way of positioning it with the money back guarantee, right? And there's still, for me, I'm still a student at all of this. I'm still learning.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? But again, the point is you take the first step. For me, that very first podcast that I ever did, it was only 11 minutes long. But I remember thinking, what if this guy doesn't publish it because he thinks it was that bad?
Because
Right?
man, the things that we tell ourselves and the things that we believe. Jeez, dude.
Over 100 podcasts later, and I'm nowhere near that, right? Like, I can have these great conversations and truly let people know, like, my biggest thing is, especially when it comes to courage, there's just a different way. People like to ask, what if it fails? What if it doesn't?
Yeah.
Instead of what's the worst that could happen, what's the best that could happen?
Yeah.
And you tell yourself that story. For me, I've had to do that all my life. Short story is that when I had thought of quitting after 5 years. I had woke up one morning to the sounds of chains hitting the floor. And when I looked outside, it was a tow truck driver coming to repossess my car for the second time in 8 months. I was struggling to make $20,000 a year. But my very first documentary client, this was 2010. Well, 2010 is when I started working with her, but 2011 is when she called in. She called in excitement to tell me that she had made $1 million from the business. Now, she had made that in a year. I was struggling to make, at 5 years, I was struggling to make $20,000 a year. And I had a moment where I could have quit, and it could have been proof that, Jude, you know what? You're not good at this, so quit. Instead, I took it as proof as I can create something valuable here. Not that I can, I already have. Because she's made money from a documentary that we created together. How do I now take that and do it again? That's what's led me to this moment again, but it's choosing to look at what is truly possible. When you take that step, when you take that step of faith, that step of courage, you begin to see what's possible. What's the best that could happen?
Dude, I love that. Yeah, I'm taking all sorts of notes here. I also think it's so good, having that confidence folder. I think that's super cool. I feel like as I'm thinking through like happy clients, I'm like, yeah, no, they said that. And, and then there's even like a belief of like, yeah, but they didn't really mean it. They're just polite. They're nice people. So of course that's the stuff they say. I would just challenge anyone listening, like, hey, what if you asked your past clients, like every single one of them, what if you said like, hey, what is the value of the piece that we did for you? Like, what is it worth today? Like, in like, try to get them to articulate like, oh my gosh, like it's led to $1 million in business, or it's helped us. It's given me confidence to where I feel like I've been able to sell like way more than I could before. Like those are the things that will help you believe that, oh, okay, like, yeah, Ryan's a nice guy. They got a great team, blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't care about that stuff. It's nice, but like, if it doesn't mean like more money in my pocket at the end of the day, then like, I got to keep the business running, and it doesn't run on us being nice, like that has to be, customer service is definitely a core part of what we're doing. But if we're not producing or helping produce results for our clients in more business or saving the time, then, probably not going to be doing this thing for very long. But I love how we started this conversation. You're talking about Mrs. Donnelly, and you were borrowing her belief, to do this thing.
Yeah. So
I think, as you're thinking about, man, should I do a workshop? Should I do some kind of a road mapping session? And if so, like, what should I charge for it? I think coming up with a process, like landing somewhere to just say like, okay, I'm going to try this. I'm going to, Jude's saying I should just like have the courage and just take the first step. And okay, so I'm going to do this thing. I don't know what I'm doing. That's fine. Like none of us knew. Like Jude, you didn't know what you were doing when you first did it. I had no idea what that guy was doing. I'm just like, I'm just going to do it. Like what's the best that can happen? I was the same thing. I was like, well, what's the worst that can happen? It's not going to be that bad. It's not going to be that bad. The worst that happens is I maybe get a little embarrassed. The client asks for their money back, or they take me to court. Okay, maybe not that extreme, but that's the worst. And it's just money at the end of the day. Yeah. So have a process, and then believe in the process. Because if you can believe in it, as that first guy was like, what? I'm going to pay for, pre-production. Right. If you really believe in the power of what happens in pre-production, and that you're not just paying $400 for what we're going to do here, because what we're going to do here, it's going to make the final product so different. Even if it only changes the trajectory of what we deliver by 1 or 2 degrees, we all know, we've all heard that, 1 degree off course over the course of, hundreds of miles or thousands of miles is like a massive difference. Yeah. Like you're going to be in a completely different spot. So to do that work, and we all wish that we could spend more time doing pre-production. So to think like, man, somebody could value what I'm doing and I could get paid. And so really do the heavy lifting so that everything else becomes easier and smarter decisions. And we're, actually creating a piece that's strategic and not just kind of throwing it together. So now to the client, you look incredibly respectable, because it seems like you've got not everything together, but you've got a process that you believe in and that you're practicing. And you can even say, and I've said this before, like, hey, like we haven't done this, or, we're still kind of early on. So we're kind of like falling or failing forward, hiccups along the way, but like, it's fine. Like we're embracing that. We want to get better. And if you want to like come along with us, we would love to experiment along with you. And we're committed to your success. So we're going to do whatever it takes to make this whole thing successful. That if you can start believing in the power of what you can do and what you can deliver to your clients and how you can help them, like you can't be stopped.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said it better myself. You cannot be stopped. And the thing that gives me the courage to even walk away from this, to jump into the next thing, the next business, is because I believe that I couldn't be stopped.
So good.
If
Jude,
there's nothing else, I just want to make sure your audience like really sits with that.
Yeah.
I am talking about doing something I've never done before, but I believe, I may not be 100% there yet, but I believe partially that I can do it because of past history, because of past evidence. There is a burden of proof that I can. And so I continue to push that limit because I think the more we do that, the more we see what is possible, it opens the door for so many other things, not just in business. It could be in your personal life as well. And so you can't be stopped. You can't be stopped. Like, truly embody that and believe it. You can't be stopped. What does that look like for you?
Dude, so good. Where can people follow along with you, check out your website, your work, all that kind of stuff before you like completely retire and then we're all like, wait, where did Jude go?
JudeCharles.co is the website. I also have a newsletter called the Dramatic Leverage Newsletter. That is actually where I'm talking about the transition that I'm making. And I'm just talking about it from a very vulnerable place. Like, some of it is scary. Some of it is I don't know what's going to happen or how it's going to happen next. But I walk through that because I think, again, I didn't have the blueprint for this or the roadmap for this. I still don't. I do have mentors and different things like that, but I don't know anybody that's ever done what I'm getting ready to do. And so I'm speaking about it publicly and personally. And more importantly, I'm a very big advocate for storytelling. And I will, obviously, through video production, I've been doing that. And I will carry that into the next thing that I do. And so that's what the leverage part of this is. That's what the Dramatic Leverage Newsletter is about, is how do you, even if you pivot to something else, how do you continue to leverage your story to make the pivot easier? And so JudeCharles.co, you'll see it on the website, the newsletter as well. And let's continue this conversation. Anyone that responds to the newsletter, I respond to them. It is conversation. It's not just me talking at you. It's me talking with you. And I hope to continue to inspire people to choose what courage looks like for them and to choose to play the game they want to play. Not the game I'm telling you to play, not the game Ryan's telling you to play, but the game you want to play so that you live a fulfilled life.
Love it. Man, so good. Thank you. Thanks so much for being here today, and looking forward to doing some stuff together here in the near future.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me, Ryan. It was definitely a great conversation. Get the blueprint. Trust me, I will convince Ryan to raise the price. So get the blueprint. I make no money from this. I just want to make sure Ryan wins. But I will definitely convince him to raise the price. It is. I know what he's doing is valuable. And so, get that today. Don't wait. Let's continue to make magic happen together.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. I've got a question for you. Are you currently doing workshops for your clients and charging them? If you're not, are you feeling more inspired after this conversation to do so? Leave a comment below if you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook and let me know. Otherwise, you can email me, ryan@studiosherpas.com. I would love to hear from you. And don't forget, if you want access to a video blueprint workshop document that we have hosted for one of our clients, you can go get it for free at studiosherpas.com/blueprint. Remember, you can get the show notes for this episode at studiosherpas.com/301. And we've got a free community that you can join, Instagram stuff. You can follow us online. Just go to the show notes. All the links are in there, studiosherpas.com/301. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. I'm so glad that you're here. And this is like the new... it's like we're in the 300s now. So is that like, what do you call that? The 4th century? Is that how you say that? Because like it's like the 19th century was the 1800s. So this is the 4th century. That's right? Anyway, appreciate you so much. Have an amazing week, and I will see you on another episode real soon.